All right, I hope you guys are doing well. Hope you had a great weekend. This lesson here is going to be the intro to our final unit of the first semester. So this concept is going to take us pretty much all the way until winter break, and it's Pythagorean theorem. Now that we have finished solving equations, we're going to use some of our solving equation skills to now apply it to different things. And Pythagorean theorem is a big portion of the 8th grade curriculum. Pythagorean theorem is used for right triangles. It's an algebra/geometry idea. So there have been notes that have been uploaded to your Teams page. If you wanted to pause now and get these, you could. If you're watching on your own, if you're in class, then you can just follow along. The notes and the examples are all on your Teams page, and you'll see Pythagorean theorem is used with right triangles. Now, a right triangle is a triangle that has a 90-degree angle. The little box in the corner means that this is a 90-degree angle. Okay, so if it says 90, then it's a right triangle. If they put the little box in there, that's because it's a 90-degree angle. The Pythagorean theorem is a very special formula that's going to get used a lot. The formula is a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So that little 2 up there means squared. Now, the key is, what do A, B, and C stand for? Well, you'll see in the picture here, A and B are the legs, all right? They're the 2 sides that make the 90-degree angle. Now, it doesn't matter the order of which one is A and which one is B, but they're always the 2 legs that make the 90-degree angle. C is what we call the hypotenuse. It is the most important because it's the one that has to be unique. The hypotenuse is always opposite the right angle. So side C is always going to be opposite the right angle. It's also always the longest. So when you are finding out the 3 sides to a right triangle, the largest number is always going to be side C. Now, we're going to start very basic today and tomorrow, and we're just going to find the missing sides of a triangle. And we're going to use some of our algebra skills, and there's going to be a new idea at the end that we'll talk about when we get to our examples. Okay, and then we're going to eventually apply all of this to some word problems and sort of real life type situations. And so let's go ahead and take a look at a couple right triangles and how we're going to solve these. So I have 2 examples here of right triangles, and you'll see that I've got the letter X because the letter X is going to represent the side that's missing. The first thing I would always do is locate the right angle, and then especially as we just get started, just draw your little arrow there, because remember, the arrow is always pointing to side C. So if I go back to the Pythagorean theorem, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So let's plug in for A, B, and C. Well, A and B make the right angle. So a squared is going to become 3 squared plus, and b squared, I'm going to plug in the 4, so that becomes 4 squared, equals c squared. And side C is where my variable is. That's my x squared. This is the one I'm going to be solving for. I'm going to be looking to find the missing side. So as I go through and look at that missing side, I'm going to have to then go and solve the equation to figure it out. So let's just start off here with 3 squared. Well, remember, squared means multiply by itself. So 3 squared means 3 times 3, so that's 9. Plus 4 squared, which is 16, equals x squared. Let's add the 9 and the 16. So we're going to get 25 equals x squared. Now, this is the last part. This is the one that is going to require us to use the ideas of solving equations, but then apply it a little bit more. Our goal is to get x alone. And we just spent a whole month doing solving equations. Now, we always talked about doing the opposite or undoing. Well, if you have a squared in a problem, the opposite of squared is to square root. So I have to square root both sides on that final step. So the squared and the square root cancel out, meaning x is now alone. And the square root of 25 means what number times itself will equal 25. So if we've got our multiplication chart, we're going to look down that diagonal. But 5 times 5 makes 25, so the square root simply equals 5. So square root is the final step, and square root is the opposite of squaring. So if I times by itself and get bigger, I want to work backwards and figure out what number times itself will work. Well, the second example has now put the x in a different location. So again, let's write down the Pythagorean theorem, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. And I'm going to draw my arrow. And remember, the arrow always points to side C. So this time I have a number where c squared is. So c squared is going to become 13 squared. Bring down the equals. A and B make the right angle. So let's say that A is where x is. So that's x squared plus b squared means I plug in the 5. Well, let's go ahead. 5 squared means 5 times 5. So that means x squared plus 25 equals 13 squared. 13 times 13, if you need to use a calculator, you can, or you work it off to the side. 13 times 13 is 169. And now I have to use my solving equation skills. If I want to get the x squared alone, the first thing is to undo the plus 25. This one's going to be a little bit different than this one because my variable's in a different location. So I'm going to subtract 25. Whatever I do to one side, I do to the other. X squared equals 144. And then remember, to get the x alone, I'm going to undo the squared with a square root. So I'll square root both sides. And the square root of 144 is what number times itself equals 144. And that means x equals 12. So using Pythagorean theorem to find the missing side of a right triangle. And you're going to have one of two situations. Either you're searching for the hypotenuse, you're searching for side C, or you're given the hypotenuse and you're looking for either A or B. And your equations are going to be solved these two ways. So let's have you guys go ahead and try to yourself. All right, what I would like you to do at this point is I would like you to pause the video and write down these two examples. If you're watching right now, you can just go ahead and solve both of them. The x is in two different locations. So look back to the two examples we just did to figure out which way you're going to solve it. So go ahead and pause right now, and then we'll go ahead and see how you did. All right, now that you're going to resume, let's take a look to see if you got them right. I'm going to start off by drawing my arrow so I know where side C is, which means I'm given side C. The Pythagorean theorem is a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Side C is 20. So I have 20 squared. And then I have A and B are the legs that make the right angle. So I'm going to make that x squared plus 12 squared. Let's go ahead and square the 12 and the 20. So this becomes x squared plus 144 equals 20 squared is 400 minus 144. I'm going to get x squared equals, and then let's go ahead and subtract this here. If you need a calculator, you can, or you can just work it out. But we're going to end up getting 256. And then remember, your last step is to square root, because square root is the opposite of the squared. If you have a calculator, you can go ahead and use this symbol in the calculator. If you're going to use your online Desmos, you can do that as well. But the square root of 256 is going to be 16. So for this particular triangle, our missing side length is 16. Initially, all of these are going to work out nicely, but eventually that's not going to be the case. And let's take a look at our second example here. So I'm going to go ahead and draw my arrow from that right angle. Notice each of these triangles has been moved and turned in slightly different locations. That's to force you to figure out which one is side C. Well, in this case, side C is our unknown. A squared plus B squared equals C squared. A and B are 8 and 15. So this is 8 squared plus 15 squared. And side C is where my X is. So I'm going to put that one there. 8 times 8 is 64. 15 times 15, if you need to work that out, go for it. What they were going to have on that one, we're going to have 225 equals X squared. And then we're going to add 64 and 225, and we're going to get 289 equals X squared. And then remember, the opposite of squaring is to square root. So we're going to square root on that final step. And in your calculator, you can go ahead and punch in the square root of 289. And the square root of 289 is going to be 17. So you've got two different style problems. You've got problems where you are trying to find the hypotenuse. You're trying to find side C. Or you've got problems where you are given the hypotenuse and you're trying to find one of the legs. So that's pretty much the lesson for the intro on Pythagorean theorem. We are going to continue to work through this for the next couple of weeks, and we're just going to build and build and build as we go through it. You will have 2 IXL sections that will go over this, and you will have a work day tomorrow to continue going through the IXL or come see me with questions. You guys have a wonderful day, and I will talk to you guys later.